On this episode of Mythcore Files, the European sailor who became Chieftain. He barely survived a shipwreck in an unknown part of the world, swam ashore, but the local tribesmen, according to legends of fellow travelers, consume human flesh. This is a true story of Carl Emil Pettersson. Born in Sweden in 1875, just north of Stockholm, the country's capital. His father left the family in his childhood, and Carl Pettersson at age 17, craving adventure and fortune, took to the seas, even though the toughness and perils of life at sea were well known. Little did he know that his life would become the source of legends. Now imagine that one day you are sleeping in a hammock after a night of drinking absinthe and playing cards, and now you wake up to your own ship's distress call. Ship, the German merchant vessel Duke Johann Albrecht, sank near Tabar Island, near Papua New Guinea, a country that doesn't exist anymore. As an experienced sailor, the young and strong Pettersson managed to swim ashore, but he knew exactly that the local islanders practice rituals that the European mind simply just cannot comprehend. Right after he swam ashore, the islanders were waiting for him, looking at him with distrust. He was sure that the worst is waiting for him, as there were tribes in the region who practiced rituals that are far beyond their understanding. But let's talk about what cannibalism really is. When we hear the word cannibalism, we imagine something terrible. Dark rituals, madness, evil. But what if I told you guys that the truth is older, quieter, and far more ritualistic than you have ever been led to believe? In forgotten corners of history, humans didn't devour each other out of bloodlust. They consumed organs, hearts, livers, sometimes brains, not to destroy but to absorb, to inherit strength, wisdom, or to talk with the supernatural. While among the Aztecs, the heart was the seat of the soul, in certain Siberian shamanic traditions, eating parts of a respected ancestor's body was an act of continuity. Even in Europe, there are whispers of powdered human remains being sold as medicine, sometimes in expensive bottles, as late as the Victorian era. The Wendigo, a chilling legend of Native Americans, treats consumption of human flesh differently, as according to the legend, if one consumes human remains, they become a monster with glowing eyes and antlers. But let's head back to the hero of our story. Pettersson braced himself for the worst, but what came next was silence, not a scream, just the sound of the jungle behind them, and curious eyes watching. Instead of finishing him on the spot, the islanders took him into their village. But don't get it twisted. This wasn't a warm welcome. Every step he took deeper into the jungle, surrounded by strangers, he must have thought, this is it. This is where the pot is boiling. Imagine the fear. He was wet, injured, exhausted, and alone, in the middle of an unknown island where every story he had heard said,
"They eat men like you."
And when they handed him food, was it kindness or a last meal? Every look from the tribesmen, every word he didn't understand, every hand that pointed at him felt like part of a ritual he didn't understand. He didn't know their language, only that their eyes had both suspicion and something deeper. Then they shoved him to the chieftain, King Lemry. The king was incredibly amazed by his appearance, blonde hair and piercing blue eyes. Also, Pettersson was stronger than any other man the villagers have ever met before. As the days passed, he realized he's not going to end up in a cage. The villagers were more open and friendly towards the sailor. And the people who were initially wary of him slowly started trusting him. A couple weeks later, the young but experienced sailor soon realized the soil on Tabar Island was extremely fertile, thick, volcanic, almost too eager to grow something. Carl noticed that, and while most men would have been thinking about escape, he was already planning a coconut empire. After Carl persuaded the king that he could bring him great wealth by clearing land for coconut plantations, King Lemry, once again impressed by the young man's ambition and bold promises, granted him permission to turn Tabar Island into a coconut empire. Eventually, his idea worked and the plantation, called Teripax, took off. The island started trading again. Carl didn't just gain wealth, he gained something much more precious, the king's complete trust. And then the king introduced him to his daughter, Princess Singdo. It was love at first sight. In 1907, after spending 3 years on the island, Carl married the princess. The couple had 9 children, but sadly, one of them passed away during birth. A couple years later, the king, Lemmy, who accepted Carl into his village, passed away due to old age. Carl, once an outsider, became the first European king of Tabar Island. As the years passed, the royal couple lived happily with the booming coconut business. But in 1921, something horrible happened. The queen, Singdo Pettersson, passed away from an infection. After realizing that he can't be a single dad of 8 children, a king, and a plantation owner at the same time, he went to Sweden to find a new wife. In 1922, Carl met Jessie Louisa Simpson in his homeland, Sweden. After a year of courtship, he brought her back to his kingdom of Tabar Island, where the couple married in 1923. However, during Carl's year-long absence, the island's coconut plantation suffered greatly. It was on the brink of bankruptcy. Carl immediately set to work restoring the plantations, but the economic conditions of the 1920s made recovery an uphill battle. To Carl's relief, he discovered a gold deposit on nearby Simberry Island, a small volcanic island in the Tabar group. He kept the find secret for several years, hoping it would help restore the island's fortunes. Despite this newfound wealth, Tabar still lacked basic healthcare. Both Carl and his wife Jessie contracted malaria. With no proper treatment available on the island, Jessie traveled to Australia for medical care and later returned to her native Sweden. She never came back to Tabar. In May 1935, she passed away from cancer in Stockholm. Around the same time, Carl's health also deteriorated. Seeking treatment for his recurring malaria, he traveled to Sydney, Australia. There, in 1937, he died of a heart attack at the age of 61. Carl left the island to his eldest son, Friedrich. At the time of his father's death, Friedrich was living in New Zealand studying medicine. Upon learning of Carl's passing and his unexpected inheritance of the throne, Friedrich chose to abandon his medical career to become the new king of Tabar. But upon returning to the island where he had spent his childhood, Friedrich quickly realized that the role of king was not what he wanted. The comforts and modern conveniences of New Zealand far outweighed the challenges of life in a developing island nation. Seeking to free himself from the burden of rule, Friedrich first offered to sell the island to Sweden. When they declined, he even offered to pay them to take it off his hands. Again, they refused. Ultimately, the land passed into the hands of Australia. As for Carl Pettersson, his legacy lived on after his reign. In 1913, Swedish diplomat Count Brian Moarner visited Tabar to meet Carl and document his extraordinary life. During his stay, he photographed a former sailor and his ever-growing family, preserving a remarkable chapter of weird history. His adventurous life inspired many pop cultural tropes. Stories of shipwrecks, tribes of special culinary taste, strangers immersing into local culture, the Princess Mary is the brave outsider. Also, his story has possibly inspired Tarzan and the famous book called Heart of Darkness. It even inspired the children's media. Regarding the man eating on Tabar Island, maybe it was only made up by bored travelers who wanted to grab the ladies' attention in a crowded Victorian-era ballroom. But what if the islanders really did sometimes indulge in ancient traditions of eating forbidden flesh? Was it only strong Charlie's exotic features and muscle-bound, almost demigod-like in the eyes of the islanders' physique that saved him from every shipwrecked sailor's worst nightmare? We will never know. But one thing is certain. Carl Emil Pettersson, born into a poor Swedish family in a town north of Stockholm, became the first European king of Tabar Island. His extraordinary feats made him a hero. Despite he passed away at 61, he will live forever through his legend, his myth. Thank you for watching my video. If you liked the video, then please subscribe to my channel, hit the like button and don't forget to comment. Also, if you have time, please comment me what would you like to see further on. Thank you for your attention. Daniel signing out.